you can just take one key and learn how things work, you can open up every lock and every single spiritual door, because all it takes is one key, and all you have to do is know what it is. That's what I do. I give you keys, and I show you how they work, and go through things that's in depth that we don't go through in many other classes. That's what the Master Key class is. I dig deeper into spirituality and show us how it works. So this is not as much a class about, hopefully to comfort everybody or encourage us. I like to call it a scholars class. That sounds so dull. This class is we just dig a little deeper into things. And whatever treasures, we just let the water, the pail down a little bit deeper in the well. And whatever cool waters we bring up out of that well and drink, let it refresh us. And we learn something. We go on about it and share some of this brand new knowledge with somebody else and another friend. We're going to twist this thing around, turn it, and see what comes out of it. Take a moment. If you got comments, if you're here, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being in my class. However you're here, if you're watching by YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure you take a moment and crash that subscribe button. Don't let off of it. And there's also a notification bell. I think if you press it, then when this video comes on, that we come on Sunday mornings, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, as well as Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, that bell will ring and say, I'm on, I'm live. I promise you I won't be on every day ringing that bell. I'll only do it when I need to and when I have to, so that you can get the best out of what we have to say. And if you're on Facebook, there's a button that says follow me. And if you just happen to get here by accident or to be here, press that follow me button. We got a lot of people that don't know that, but when you press it, the same thing will happen on Facebook. And of course, those of you that are watching on myalc.org, thank you so much for what you do. So make your comments. If you're new, hit new, or first time, hit first time. And also share it with a friend. Share it with some other people that you know that watch a lot of different things. Share it with us. Let me share this with you because he's getting ready to dig down some truth. Now, let's get down into it. Christianity. I'm not going to talk about the overall things of Christianity. It's something that we left off last week, I believe. And we were talking about how languages can be a barrier. Let me say this past Sunday I had mentioned something about Christianity. When you're a Christian, people ask you, are you a Christian? What are you? And you say, yes, I'm a Christian. But what does that person think about you when you say I'm a Christian? Do they think, are you a black Christian? Are you an evangelical Christian? Or do you go to a black church, a white church? Are you one of the evangelicals that's following President Donald Trump? Are you, what kind of Christian are you? Do you like Muslims? Do you dislike? What kind of Christian are you? See how much trouble you can get in? And all of these things come from language barriers and misunderstandings. Listen, back in the 1600s when they were bringing people over from Africa, enslaved people, and they were bringing them into America, it wasn't that America was looking to make slaves out of people at first. Not quite at first. They needed workers, but they weren't sure about it. As a matter of fact, many that came from England, they were trying to get rid of slavery in England. And when they got to America, toward the latter part of the 1600s, early 1700s, the slaves would come over and they said, well, let's make them or turn them Christian. But they have to understand that when they get baptized, The freedom, don't give them the idea that they're free, that they can be free in Jesus, but not free from their master. So they began to try to introduce Christianity or Jesus Christ to the slaves, or to the, basically some of them started as indentured workers in the beginning and ultimately became slaves. And because of the skin color, they couldn't run away, so that became their badge. Anyway, you know history. Christianity got to the point where Christianity had come down from the Middle East on down into Egypt and began to spread all down through Africa. This was 2,000 years ago. And they spoke of this healer, this exorcist by the name, it was Jesus they were talking about. He was a Middle Eastern man. 2,000 years ago, people were a little bit darker. He had distinct features. But they knew of him this way. And when you think of the word or the name Jesus, I want you to imagine something. I've heard people say, well, there's power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. There's power in what you believe is behind the name Jesus. French is Je suis. Spanish, Jesus. You know, a lot of people name Jesus. So the name Jesus, if you were in the Middle East during the time of Jesus and Jesus was walking down the street and you happen to see him, you say, oh, there's Jesus. And you said, hey, Jesus, in your English vernacular, he would not turn around. Why? Because that's not his name. In his own language, in his own culture, his name was Yeshua or Joshua, which meant salvation. Jesus, as you got down into Greece, Jesus was his name out of the Greek. So imagine as it went down through Africa, Jesus would not be his name. It might be some variation of Yahshua or Joshua or however. But if someone was enslaved and brought from Africa and brought to America, no one knew each other's language. And that enslaved person was told about Jesus. They wouldn't recognize them. Some were Muslim, some were already Christians because Christianity was already in Africa. So they got to America. And over time, over the years, as the African understood the language of the Puritans who had brought Jesus from Europe. Not only did they bring Jesus from Europe, but they brought statues, they brought paintings, they brought all of these things. So whenever you saw a picture of Jesus, their interpretation, Jesus had long blonde hair, blue eyes, and very creamy skin. So when the African will say, now who is that? When they finally say, who is that? And they will say, this is Jesus. We want you to receive Jesus. We want you to ask Jesus into your life. They would say, no, not if I don't know who that is. That's your God? Yes. No. And then as they talked further, and they said, well, what was your God about? Well, he healed the sick. Oh, we knew a God like that. We knew someone like teacher. He was a great teacher. Oh, we knew someone like that. He cast out devils. We knew someone like that. You know, he said things. He said things that let your light so shine. We know someone like that. And the more they would talk, maybe even read the Bible as the enslaved person started understanding the language, they said whatever his name was in their language, that's him. But we didn't quite understand that or make the connection because he does not have long blonde hair or blue eyes. He came from the Middle East on into, and then the history came on into Africa. So after a while, of course, the African descendants of the African began to have church services or worship God and learn the teaching of Jesus in their own way. But the Puritans, those who brought Jesus from England, began to say they don't understand. Therefore, your religion, whatever you think it is not legitimate. It's not real. Ours is. So you have your first separation right there. You're not Christian. They were probably more Christian than Christianity for 2,000 years, but they were told they were not because they did not worship or say it the way the majority of the people say it. So it began right there. So when they got saved, they wanted to get them saved and say it this way. Repeat this after me. Do it this way. And now you're saved. And this is Jesus. Long hair, blue eyes. Now listen, don't get me wrong. I'm just telling you how history says it. It's all right if you paint Jesus in your own image. I would paint Jesus in my image, but that's why the scriptures actually tell us, thou shalt make no graven images. Because it's not a good idea to paint Jesus or to paint our people in those kind of images for us to get the idea, well, this is God. So when you're saying, I want to be like Jesus, well, you can't be like Jesus because you don't have long blonde hair and blue eyes. You can't be like Jesus if that's the image. If a person who has long hair, blue eyes, and blonde hair, they can't be like Jesus if you paint them black. So I believe it's left up to us how we interpret this. We give the teachings, and how we interpret the teachings make a difference in our lives. You know, I was reading something that says about learning to work out your own soul salvation. Some things you just got to work out for yourself. And as the churches grew, they began to grow apart. And so you have one group of people. Let's say they were Baptists, and you even inside of the same. That's why you can't get mad at everybody. Because we do work together on so many things. The protests. We're not just black people. We're black and white, Asian, Native American. Everybody was working together. Everybody was standing for the same cause. They may not be believers. They may be atheists. They may be agnostics. But we have to understand how to be able to express our faith with not beating up on somebody else. It's not our business. Well, you know, if you don't follow Jesus the way I follow Jesus, then you're going to hell. And who's the last person you know went to hell and came back and said, you know, I didn't follow Jesus the way you told me, so therefore I went to hell. So I'm sorry, I just came back to tell you and I'm on my way back. Nobody. This is something that you have to follow for yourself. Christian history, and one of the reasons I love it and one of the reasons I like to, I study it, is because it helps me to understand where we come from and how we thought at that particular time. And what we've passed down over the years. And what we've taken as Christians that actually came from culture, more so than came from original teaching. What we've heard others teach us other than what we have learned through scripture ourselves. You know, it's interesting. I always tell the story about one of the phrases that people talk about is you have to have a personal relationship with Jesus. But when I was growing up, we weren't taught that you had to have a personal relationship with Jesus. That was something new. I'd never heard that before. We were taught that when Christ comes into your heart, that from that point on, we not only worship God, but we worship God together as one people. There is a oneness about us. As a matter of fact, my church was called the Great Big Family. We weren't called the family with a bunch of individuals. We were called a great big family. Christ in you made you part of a family. That's what we are right here. This is one of the keys of how we understand relationship. Jesus Christ is neither black nor white, Jew nor Greek. This is not how we see Christ. Yes, we know what his race was. We know where he came from. But the teachings of Christ are so far beyond color, so far beyond culture, because that's what Jesus did. He went past the Jewish culture to teach us heavenly things. Now I'm going to leave you with this. Number one, don't let other people tell you that if you don't worship God this way, you're wrong. You know, what if I am wrong? You might be. But if you got good friends around you, if you got a good teacher, if you got somebody that can help you to read through your scriptures, if you read your scriptures and then talk them over with other people, don't just read them and say, I'm my own authority. Talk things over. Be open. That'll keep you from screwing up here. Secondly, always be open with your faith. Don't beat up other people because they may believe different than you. Learn to listen to them. Don't condemn them to hell immediately. And thirdly, realize you don't know everything. That in the weeks to come, the months to come, things shift and things change. I may not be in a physical building in a church, but you know what? I'm growing in God right here and right now. Look at you. How much have some of you grown just in the last several months? We've been connected, but yet you've still grown. Look at that. God has opened doors for you, made ways for you. And so now let's do something together so that we don't let this planet around us just get into our brains and tear us apart. I'm going to teach you a little bit of just how to do a meditation and how to ease that mind. I want you to take a moment. Notice my hands are open here. I'm going to place them right there on my knees right there. But I'm in an open position. It's a position of reflection. It's a position of reception. I'm going to leave my eyes open, but you can close your eyes if you can focus better. Sometimes I leave my eyes open, just focus on a little dot or focus on an item or something, and just focus on it. Then breathe. And let it go. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And do that about 10 times. And just focus your mind on the breath that you take in and the breath that you breathe out. And remember, the Lord is my shepherd. Think of these words. The Lord is my protector, my caregiver. I shall not want. In other words, I shall not lack. That's what he does. And that's how God keeps you. Look, take a moment. Make sure you hit that myalc.org. Go, give. I promise you, you'll feel a whole lot better when you give. It's like a weight takes off of you. And you can also do it by text message. You say, I want to be a part of your fellowship. I want to be a part of your gathering. The way you do is you establish a record. You create a record, your own record. By texting to give, whatever amount you give, that opens up that record for you. You'll be able to go to it whenever you want to. And you can text it to 713-742-2035. That's 713-742-2035. And you'll connect with us, and I'll know who you are. You know who I am. We'll get to know each other. I can't wait to make that connection with you. Listen, it's been a wonderful time, and I appreciate you. I thank you for taking time in this class. I know this is a quick class, but it's a good class. It's something you can sink your teeth into and something you can take with you. Your scriptures I would take into John chapter 16. Begin to read at verse 21 and then you can go down. Take your time, read it. It is a precious, precious passage of scripture. You're going to love it. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time, okay?